Hey, everybody, this is Jonah Lupton, your host of the Startup Sense podcast. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a very interesting episode for you, not like our other kind of 113 episodes we've done already over the last couple of years. This time, we're actually talking with a pre-launch, pre-revenue company. So on the phone, I have Mike K. He is the co-founder of Dubuc Motors, and they are coming out with a electric vehicle sports car called the Tomahawk. They're currently raising some money on crowdfunding platforms, and we're going to get into all of that in a second. So first, let me introduce Mike. Mike, how are you?
Great. Yourself?
I'm doing wonderful, man. Thanks for asking. Tell us about yourself first, kind of, professional, personal, whatever you want. But we want to get to know you a little bit first.
Well, I founded a few startups. They were mostly local or national, mostly in real estate. I had a printing company back in the day when it was blooming. I got rid of that early 2000s and invested heavily in real estate. I always wanted to build an electric sports car, and I teamed up with my partner, who is still in the company, Mario, a while back. So he validates my crazy ideas, and we've been self-funding the company for the past 10 years.
Wow. Okay, so you guys have been at this for a long time then.
Oh, yeah. Several prototypes, a lot of validation, a lot of crazy ideas, a lot of patents that we're going to be applying for. So it's going to be interesting to see the market's reaction.
So talk to us about the company and the Tomahawk. What exactly are you trying to build here?
Well, the Tomahawk is a sleek, sexy sports car. It's going to be, everything. People have a preconception that electric vehicles are geeky or nerdy, and so we're trying to take that out of the equation. Tesla paved the road for us, and what we're trying to do really is just complement their product line with the first 2+2 electric sports car. So the first 4-seater in the luxury sports car segment.
Interesting. How far away are you guys from possible production?
We're looking at about 12 to 14 months right now.
Okay. And so right now you guys are
Q1 of 2008.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So right now you guys are raising money. How's that going?
It's going great. We're still doing our TTY phase, which is testing the waters just before we get approval from the SEC. And we're expecting to have the approval, I guess, would be mid-January. So we'll start to be going live, I'd say, middle of January.
Now, how much money have you guys raised so far, and what's the goal?
So far, we've raised about $6.1 million in TTY phase, and our initial goal was between $5 to $20 million. So we're still looking to ramp it up and see. Obviously, we're going to gain more traction as we go into live mode.
Right.
But so far, the traction's been incredible. We've had over 1,100 people on board who've indicated interest in the company. So it's it looks very promising, and it's interesting. Like I said, having been funded for the last 10 years, it's fun to have some people on board and brand ambassadors who are going to push the product as well. So
now those people would essentially be getting equity in the company, right?
Exactly. So it's similar to a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign, but instead of getting a perk in return, investors or backers, if you will, are going to be getting equity instead of a perk.
Do they know how much? Have you decided yet how much equity it's going to be? Has there been any valuation set, or is it still too early for that?
Yeah, no, everything's online. We're going to be putting the offering circular up mid-January, but there is a link available. I could share it with you later on. I don't have it on hand right now.
Okay.
Where all the financials are there, and we're selling shares currently at $8 a piece. So,
okay.
But anybody who wants to go through the document will be able to.
Now, say you end up raising, let's call it $15 million in total. What is that money going to go towards?
Well, it's going to be going first to the unveiling, producing the 6 vehicles that are required for crash tests, producing our own airbags and so forth, all the regulations, all the DOT certifications that are needed here in North America and Europe. And then, tooling the factory and so forth, hiring more people, just expanding and getting ready for production in 2018.
Where would you guys plan on having the factory?
We're looking at California right now, but it's still in between. Logistically speaking, right now, I think it would be better to stay where we were originally, which is in Quebec, Canada, just because all our engineers are here for the moment. But we definitely want to move out on the West Coast in the U.S.
Okay. Now, what you mentioned Tesla. I mean, obviously, we all know them as kind of the biggest electric car company out there, valued at $30 or $40 billion in the stock market. But how do you guys plan on complementing them? I know you have a sports car, but what is different about your car? Obviously, the look's different. But what else? I mean, what's the technology, the battery? Maybe talk more about that.
Well, it's important to note that over the years, what we've been working on was to build, first and foremost, a platform that we can build several cars on, so we could dress it up on a different way, starting from the chassis. So from the ground up, we can build, a sports car, or later on a Jeep, if you will, or a utility vehicle, something that, staying in a market where the big automakers are not addressing certain needs of consumers or corporations. So, there's a lot of technology that I don't want to go into right now. I'd rather stay low profile as we have for the past few years and deliver, let our work speak for itself when it's unveiled. But there's a lot of, we're planning on applying for 8 to 10 patents just for the Tomahawk sports car. So it's a very exciting time.
I read an interview that you did with CNBC 8 or 9 months ago, and they mentioned that the price of the car would be low 6 figures. Is that still accurate?
Yeah, we're looking to target between 120 and 150.
Okay.
And then there's always add-ons. I mean, there's always somebody that's going to want to have something that the other guy doesn't have. So, I mean, but between 120 and 150 is a good price range.
And for people that are not familiar with electric cars, I mean, there's no engine, so there's no gas consumption. So essentially people are charging these in their homes, right, or garages?
Yeah, homes, or like you would with a cell phone, right? You go home, you plug it overnight, or, during the day, whatever it may be. And for long trips, I mean, there's so many charging stations now available across the U.S. And even Canada that it's not a problem anymore as it used to be.
Now, how do those charging stations work? Can anyone with an electric car pull up and, charge their car? Do they pay a fee? How does it work?
Well, for ours, we would like to hook up to Tesla's charging stations down the road. But for what comes in terms of standard charging stations, yeah, there's definitely a fee depending on the state where you're from and so forth, but it's very minimal. Even in a household consumption, it's very minimal. So it's not something that's... It's about 1/10 of what you would pay. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. You were going to say it's 1/10 of what?
1/10, depending on which state you come from, but it ranges between 1/10 and 1/20 of what you would regularly pay at the gas pump. So.
Oh wow. Okay, so much cheaper.
Definitely, yeah.
And you're expecting the Tomahawk to get around 300 to 350 miles per charge?
Well, right now with the prototype, we were at 370. For the production model that we're going to unveil, we're counting more in the upwards of 400. So it's still so when you guys,
assuming that all goes well and you raise the money you need and you do the unveiling and do the crash test and you go into production in 2018, do you have any idea how many cars you'd be planning to produce in 2018?
Well, on our first year, we're looking in the low hundreds, just because logistically it takes a lot of, there's a lot of learning curves going into it. We've had a lot of pre-sold vehicles already, but haven't pushed the reservation phase yet. We're first going to finish our crowdfunding campaign and then push the reservations. So, I expect there's going to be more demand than we're going to be able to pull out. But once everything goes good, we're looking at a low 1,000, 1,500 production once we're fully ramped up. So,
okay. This is Jonah Lupton, founder of the Lupton Group and host of the Startup Sense podcast. Are you struggling to find the right tech team to build your company's website or mobile app? Maybe you've developed a product but need help with your go-to-market strategy, including branding and marketing. Well, stop worrying, because my team at the Lupton Group can assist you with all of those needs. We specialize in helping entrepreneurs and startups of all sizes launch and grow their businesses. For a free consultation, you can email me at jonahlupton@gmail.com or visit our website at luptongroup.co. What do you think will go into building each car? How long do you think? Because you told me in the pre-call that the majority of production is going to be by humans, right, versus machines or robots. So, this is going to be a very intensive production process, I'm assuming, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So unlike a factory that's, a $500 million factory, and then all the tooling that comes in with it, it's a low scale, small niche market that we're targeting. So there's no need for heavy robotics. It'll still be a manual assembly line, but we'll be less relying on robotics than we are on humans.
So how many hours, man hours, or total hours of production do you think will go into each car?
8 hours.
8? That's it?
Altogether. Yeah, between all the production lines, yeah.
Wow, that's actually way less than I would have expected. I thought you were going to say a couple hundred hours.
No, well, that's taking in account all the production lines, right? So.
Oh, okay, right. Now, are you guys? How much of the car are you guys building yourselves, and then how much are you sourcing, from other companies?
Well, all the engineering has been done by us, as far as the chassis, the body, the suspension, and so forth. Batteries and things that have been tried, tested, and true. We're not reinventing the wheel, so we're taking things that have been applied and that work well and that are trusted, right? So I'd say for most part, the engineering of the vehicle is all ours, and as far as battery components, tires and so forth, those are all things that we
Gotcha.
outsource.
How many different colors are you planning to do?
That's an interesting question. We're going to be offering 5 free of charge, 5 different palettes, and but we will be offering at an additional charge a different color scheme or a color of choice that the consumer wants.
Gotcha. Now, I noticed that I'm on the website right now, which is dubucmotors.com, and I see obviously pictures of the Tomahawk. I see a white one and a green one. And you guys have a kind of a black stripe down the hood of the car, and then it looks like kind of some black paneling on the sides. Is that going to be the finished design, or are these still kind of prototypes and you're playing around with the final designs?
No, those were for the prototypes. Obviously, there's some people who like that color scheme and some that don't. It was more or less just to do a statement at the auto shows that we did the unveiling for our prototype that you see there. So it was more just to stand out.
Yeah, I'm assuming this car must be very light, right?
Well, it is light in material, but then when you factor in the battery, which accounts for a lot of weight, it's quite heavy. But overall, it's still lighter than a conventional vehicle.
Yeah, right. I'm guessing like 2,500 pounds.
More in the 3,300 pounds.
Okay. And where is the battery located? Is it in the front, in the hood, or is it behind the rear axle or over the rear axle?
No, it's all across. So from the front to the back in the console. So
Oh,
right down
wow.
the middle.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Interesting. What else can you tell us? What else can you tell us about? I mean, you've been on this journey for 10 years, right? I mean, that I can't even imagine. I mean, obviously, you're extremely dedicated and determined to make this thing happen. So, what have you learned over the last 10 years?
Boy, lots of things. I think one thing I would say is never take advice from somebody that only take advice from people you would be willing to change your shoes with, right? So I wouldn't take any opinions from people anymore that are that haven't been where I am or have been further than where I am. So that's one thing. But there's so many. Geez, I don't know where to start.
No, I mean, right, building an electric vehicle is something that 99.9% of the population knows nothing about. So it is probably hard to find good people to give you advice. So who have you and your business partners surrounded yourselves with, that became key advisors or key mentors for you?
Well, we took advice from people who've built multinationals. Not just local businessmen or national businessmen, but from people who have built businesses around the globe. People who have known struggles or people who have started businesses from the ground up is basically, who we're leaning on and who are, sometimes our compass to guide us in the right way or to answer a few questions that we might have. So that's definitely an added value for us, and we appreciate all the help that these people have given us over the years. So we're very thankful.
What just trying to think what else I can ask you. I mean, because like I said earlier, this is not a traditional interview for me. You guys are pre-launch, but I love I love cars.
It's
I love sports
unconventional.
cars. It's a very intriguing concept. I mean, there's very few electric cars out there right now, and most of them are produced by the big automakers. So for someone like you and your business partner to come around and kind of do this from scratch on your own, bootstrapping it. I just find that very intriguing. So, I mean, you have to be a little crazy, right, to do this?
Well, I would say ballsy.
Right.
Definitely. There's not too many startups that are in this type of hardware, even though it's a connected vehicle. So there's a blend of software and hardware, but it's still not something that's commonly seen in incubators or accelerators around the nation. So, yeah, we're definitely, I believe we're the only startup in EVs in the U.S., if I'm not mistaken.
I would not. Yeah, I would not be surprised at all if that was true. How much are you guys putting into the technology? Right. I mean, I'm familiar with other sports cars out there like Lamborghini and Ferrari, and they're more about performance of the vehicle than they are about the having the most advanced technology. So where do you guys hope to fall?
Well, this might not fall in technology. I mean, we have, if you want to look at the performances, we're pretty comparable to Tesla, except for the range, we have a bit more. But if you want something to look at, you can basically compare it to a Tesla. What differentiates us is that we fit the big and tall, right? I'm fairly big myself, and having driven, several luxury sports cars, you're always very tight inside the cabin, which is fun to drive for half an hour, but if you're doing something longer than an hour, it's really dreadful. So something that I wanted to address was to be comfortably seated. There's a lot of big and tall people that just don't they want a sports car, but they don't go for it because it's simply not comfortable or
right.
You just don't fit inside. You try to get in or get out. It's it's a big hurdle. So that's one thing that we have addressed. And the other thing that I think there's a market for is women. I was on Rodeo Drive 3 weeks ago, speaking to a bunch of women there, and we were talking about the product, and they loved it, and this, that, and we got into the conversation of, well, there's 2 extra seats in the back, so it's more appealing for women, especially if there's kids or something. It's a car that's as practical as a sedan, but in the form of an exotic sports car. So, I mean, I think it's going to open up, a small gap for women to get into the segment. And unlike a gas car, where they might be intimidated by, going to the garage for service or whatnot, there's no maintenance on the electric car, and it's just practical. I mean, you could fit your toddlers in the back seat, groceries, whatever it may be.
So how do you navigate the branding and kind of like the coolness factor? And, what I mean is when H2, or Hummer came out with their H2, it was just like the cool, big, badass, truck that every dude wanted. And then as soon as we started seeing like the soccer moms driving them, I felt like it lost the cool factor real quickly. So that's where like you guys have to try to skate that, like obviously it's a very cool, slick looking sports car. If my 80-year-old grandma bought one and started driving it, like it becomes less appealing for someone like me. So, I mean, is there any way to control that?
Well, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of professional sports athletes jumping on board. We've had a lot of discussions with some of them who, are interested in the project. And, have said, once it's ready, count me in, I'm buying one and so forth. So I think for branding and so forth, you're going to be seeing a lot of celebrities buying in early. And I think that's going to create more of the badass feel that you're talking about, or, the more appealing side of it. I don't think it's intended for an much older crowd or, something of that effect. But, I think it's something that would be very appealing in movies and so forth. So I think as far as the look and the branding goes, I mean, there's a few football players that I've spoken to, basketball players and so forth. So now I think it's going to speak for itself.
The big challenge, of course, I'm guessing your business model is going to be make these cars in the manufacturing facility and then ship them anywhere in the country to customers, correct?
Exactly, yeah. Online.
So how do you get over the hurdle of someone buying the car kind of sight unseen without even being able to test drive it?
Well, we're going to be doing a lot of auto shows, right? So the same way that Tesla started back in 2004 or 5, I believe, they had about, I think they've sold 25 or 2,600 Roadsters in their 4-year production. So, I mean, they didn't have showrooms. They didn't have, there wasn't even charging stations widely available back then. So, I mean, we're looking back, going back a decade ago, if not more, and they were successful in doing it. So I believe that, with a good online campaign, enough auto shows where people can drive them, word of mouth, and so forth, I think it's gonna, people are more. I don't know if it's more aware or they're more online today than they were.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
but no, instance, definitely somebody's. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, last week I interviewed one of the co-founders of a company called Vroom, and, they have 300 or 400 cars on their website. People buy them sight unseen, no test drive. They buy it right off their website. Vroom's based in Texas. They ship the car to your house, and they have like a 7 or 14 day kind of return policy. If you're not happy, they'll come pick up the car, and they've been around for less than 4 years, and they'll do $1 billion in revenue this year. So
exactly. So
clearly people are more comfortable buying online, even cars, even something as large as a purchase as that.
But we're going to be pretty much, around the country and doing events. So that's not something that's worrisome to me anyways.
Okay.
But it is a good point. Yeah.
I mean, you'll get a ton. I mean, there's going to be so many PR opportunities in the beginning, right? I mean, TechCrunch and Mashable, and, they're all going to want to do coverage of you and the car and the story. So, I mean, there's not going to be any drought of PR in the beginning, I'm guessing.
No, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll end it here, I guess. Any last words of wisdom you'd like to share with someone? I mean, your journey's been pretty crazy, 10 years. Not too many entrepreneurs can stick with something for that long and see it through. So, any pearls of wisdom you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, just stick to something that you believe in, that have had traction. I mean, go by increments. Every step is a stepping stone, and you're going to see light at the end of the tunnel eventually if it is a good idea. Too many times I see people who stick to an idea that just doesn't work. But I mean, if there's traction and people like it, and if there's a market for it as well, then keep believing in it and go by increments. It's going to happen.
Where is the best place for someone to find you, as well as the company? Obviously, the website is dubucmotors.com. If they're interested in reserving a Tomahawk or giving to the crowdfunding campaign, where should they go?
Well, they could visit the Start Engine campaign page, startengine.com, type in Dubuc Motors, and my campaign page is going to appear. They could also email me, mike@dubucmotors.com. I guess that's pretty much the way to get in touch with me. I'm pretty fast at responding, so
okay.
I'll put all that stuff in.
I'll put all that information and the links that you just mentioned in the show notes, so people will be able to find you if they need to. And I want to thank you for being a guest. I'm sure you're busy right now with some other stuff, but you're kind enough to come on and do this interview with us, so I appreciate it. Feel free to come back anytime, right? I mean, after you guys finish raising some money, or certainly when you guys go into production, I'd love to have you back on and we can talk about that.
Definitely, anytime. I appreciate you taking the time.
You got it, man. Talk to you soon, Mike.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.